The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Quirky Dog Podcast, inspired by some of the quirkiest dogs you can ever imagine and the owners who love them. This podcast is brought to you by the quirky couple themselves, Scott and Jess Williams. Their aim is to educate and entertain. Here's Scott and Jess.
Welcome, guys, and happy Wednesday. We're coming to you live from Salem, New Hampshire, and we are going to talk about the topic of are you settling for less today? But first, we're going to start with the quirky tip of the day. Good job with the pig. Okay, Chrissy, you got to zoom in early because I love my sweatshirt. My quirky tip today is a very special shop called Have It Your Way, and it's so cute. It's kind of like a play off of Burger King, Have It Your Way.
Oh, really?
Don't start with me.
I never would have guessed that.
Britt and her very special dog, Havoc, were actually guests on our show. Their podcast is linked in the description, and she recently just suddenly lost Havoc very tragically. So support her this season, but this shirt specifically, this balance shirt, I just love. I had her make it for me specifically. The quirky code is Quirky15. It's 15% off, and there's gifts for your two-legged friends, gifts for your four-legged friends. There's literally like crate tags, name tags, bandanas. For the humans, there's like drinkware, apparel. Awesome stuff. So check it out. And the code will end by 12/15 because they have to get shipped out in time for Christmas. So please check out Have It Your Way and type in Quirky15 for the 15% off. Thank you so much, Britt. Britt's one of our favorites. She grooms our Doodle Max, and she's a good New England dog person. So please support local small businesses. Okay, this was a Scotty topic. Where did this come from? Why do you want to do it? What's going on?
Topic? What are we talking about?
Are you settling for less?
Well, I just have, quite often and I'm always out seeing new people and working with people and their dogs. And very often people will say to me after a few classes, I wish I had done this sooner. I can't believe I waited so long to work with this dog. Because the dog is now gone from being an incredible pain in the ass to really a joy to have and to work with, and just, adding to the home instead of always creating stress and problems. So it made me think about, how many people are out there settling for this stress, just accepting this stress in their life and settling for less when they could, if they got proactive, they could just start cleaning up their lives a little bit and making things a little better.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, as 2023 is ending, we're going into new year 2024. It's a good time to think about like what you want. What do you want, the future year to look like? Manifest, New Year's resolutions, whatever you want to call that. But, how can you improve things? And people do a lot of workarounds with their dogs and they don't realize it. We had a client recently, she drives her dog to an Air Force base to take it for a walk because it was so difficult on the street. A lot of people only walk their dogs, at nighttime. I'm sorry, vitamin D is good for us. It's good for our dogs. I like sunshine. Like, that stinks to have to wait. I mean, the sun is setting pretty early now. Some people are walking in the dark just because, they get out of work and it's dark already. But on the weekends and stuff, it would be nice to be able to go out in the daytime when there's people out. Like, all of these little workarounds that people are making, and it goes way beyond taking your dog for a walk. How great would it be if you didn't have to be making these special accommodations and you just faced the problem head on and you came up with some solutions?
Yeah, if your dog is kind of holding you hostage in a sense where you don't invite friends over or relatives because of the dog's behavior, you don't have your children bring friends over because of the dog. I mean, these are things that can be rectified fairly easily through some training and management, even without training. Just, through some basic management.
Yeah, some people don't leave their homes on a regular basis or even a semi-regular basis. Some dogs, there's someone home with the dog 24/7 because it's such an issue. Some people will never vacation because their dog's like, these are things that are really like deterring the quality of your life. And when you think about owning a dog, we're not talking about, just a 2 to 3 year time frame here. Like, it's going to be at least, a decade if you're lucky, probably closer to 12 to 15 years if you're super lucky. Like, this is a pretty big stretch of your life. So when you're starting to, introduce all these workarounds and it just seems like, oh, this is our lifestyle, this is how we have to do things. But when you have more freedom and you have more options, normally through training, things get a lot easier and a lot simpler. And it's also better for your dog. We cannot stress that enough. Not only is it better for your lifestyle, but the dogs are just in such a better mental headspace. I cannot even tell you some of our clients recently where we go back and we see the dog and it's like, wow, like the dog seems well. The dog seems like it's processing. The dog doesn't seem out of its mind crazy from over arousal and anxiety and a lack of, direction and just in its mind, whatever the heck is going on in it. The dog seems like it's focused and it's feeling better overall. And even in a physical sense, the dog isn't trembling. The dog isn't, scatterbrained and pacing everywhere. Like it's just mentally and physically so much more well. So let's introduce wellness as we, close up this year, as we head into the next year. Let's think about making our dogs as well as possible. And in turn, your household is going to have great effects. It's going to be more peaceful. It's going to be more harmonious. It's going to be a better house to live in.
I was at a client's house where they had duct tape all over the couch where the dog had torn the couch apart, and they just started duct taping the rips and whatnot. And so they can't get new furniture because they're just afraid the dog will destroy all the new furniture. So they're living on furniture that's covered with duct tape and being destroyed by their dog. Not because they can't afford to have a nice couch and something decent to sit on without springs coming up into their butt, but because they're afraid that their dog is just going to continue to destroy everything, and they had no plan to stop it.
Yeah. I mean, we've had our fair share of so-so couches. When we first got together, we had an $80 futon from Walmart.
With us, it's because we can't afford anything.
It is not, but we had a $300 Amazon futon for a while when we had the facility, and then we moved that into our new rental. We have a, decent fake leather couch right now. I don't do the real leather scene. It's nice to have a nice couch. But I would say if you're sitting on furniture that's duct taped, you are probably settling for less, especially if you can financially afford it. So just do some basic management stuff. Can you crate your dog when it's left unattended? Can you put up some gates? Find some ways, some biohacks, if you will, that will make your life a better life to live. Because we so often start accommodating the dog from the moment it gets home, and then all of a sudden we're making exception after exception after exception. And now your entire life is just based around how we can keep the dog, somewhat contained and the least amount of a nuisance as possible. Come up with ways to target the solutions head on. I cannot stress that enough. It helps you, it helps the dog, it helps your household, it helps society.
And I do think that, we're talking about dogs primarily, but if you're settling for less with your dog, and I know from personal experience, where else are you settling for less? In your relationship, in your work, in your health, in your physical health,
yeah. Your mental health,
not being as strong or as fit as maybe you'd like to be or should be or feel you should be, but you just push that feeling down and continue to sit on the couch eating chips and ice cream and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's true. The dog can be the first stepping stone to taking action, right? Because, it's an interactive relationship and everything else, but then that can expand out to, what's the quality of your sleep like? Can I make my sleep better? What's the quality of the diet that you're eating? How frequently are you going and, walking at least on the street or maybe hitting the gym or doing these little simple things? If you're, feeling down and out, turn the shower on cold at the end of the shower. It's free. There are ways out there to easily help yourself, but it's so easy to get into these ruts like Scott is talking about. And if the dog is what starts you on a path to a better quality of life, more wellness and everything else, keep the ball rolling so that can, transcend into all areas of your life. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, and it could be, you may feel powerless to make any big changes in many aspects of your life for legitimate reasons. You just can't make these changes. But with your dog, that is something that you can make changes in their behavior and relatively quickly. And when I say quickly, within a month. You start doing some classes with somebody, and I will say also, if you try doing some classes and you just didn't work out, find someone else. And maybe it was a personality clash, or maybe the methodology wasn't working for you. But don't say, I tried it, it didn't work.
Yeah.
You should be going, the people that I work with these days, quite often, I'm the third or fourth trainer they've seen. And I give these people tremendous credit for seeking me out after going through this with other people and like not getting anywhere and spending a lot of time and money and not getting anywhere. And the only thing I can attribute it to is that they love their dog and their pain point is friggin' high. They're like, I got to try somebody else. I'm just going to call somebody else and see if they can help me. And yeah, I was at a house a few days ago with an aggressive rescue dachshund. And they had all these, they've been living with this dog for a year and a half. I said in a text before I went there, I just assumed the dog bites. I said, text me the bite history real quick before I get there. Because I got bit last month and I'm just like.
Done. It's still hurting him.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not walking into, getting my hand bit again. And the guy says, well, I've been bit 13 times and my partner's been bit like 12 times. I'm like, all right, no problem. I bring my leather gloves with me. And we start working with this dog. We made some good headway. And they were amazed. Like, they were friggin' amazed at what we were able to accomplish in 1 hour. And they were just so relieved and so happy that I came. And he said, thank you for doing what you do. I mean, this is amazing. And we're going to do some classes moving forward together. But sometimes it's just as simple as getting the right trainer to your home or bringing your dog wherever it needs to go to meet with a person and just getting started on that journey.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, it's this big burden that's lifted off you. You're like, holy shit, my dog isn't retarded. Yeah. My dog isn't stupid.
We don't say that word
My
anymore.
dog really isn't as aggressive as I thought he was, whatever it is.
Yeah, no. And, I am not a big person for pushing online content at all, but last week we did Can You Afford Dog Training? It is tight out there. I understand that, some people do have huge financial constraints on them. There are some really good accounts out there on TikTok, on everything else. Literally, the other day before Thanksgiving, I don't remember the account. Maybe it was The Naked Dog. I'm not sure. But she did this great tethering video. She's like, if your dog is not behaving, when you're having guests over, while you're making Thanksgiving dinner, tether your dog to the doorknob, reward your dog for settling. Like really, really important, great information.
And basic.
Yeah. And stuff that we talk about in, our free course and How to Calm Your Canine, which is a pretty affordable course we offer. These types of things, tethering, stepping on the leash, it can be life-changing for your dog. So, and it doesn't have to be, you're now finding a professional and you're paying them XYZ dollars to make big headway. You can make some small changes in your life that make all the difference. Sometimes just reintroducing the crate, So many people are like, oh, well, the dog's potty trained, he doesn't destroy stuff. Yeah, but it gives the dog a little bit of downtime, a little bit of rest time. The same reason that, they make daycare kids take naps when they're young, and the same reason that they tell adults to take 5 to 10 minutes out to, do some deep breathing and close your eyes and maybe some meditation. Dogs need a little bit of downtime as well. So introducing something like stepping on the leash, tethering, crating, maybe all three, that alone could be life-changing, but do something. Stop settling for less. You deserve more, and so does your dog. All right, let's go to break super quick, and we get back. We're going to talk about this all a little bit more.
Want to keep up with all the latest from the Quirky Dog podcast like me and Murphy here? Then make sure you head on over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Or if you prefer to listen to the madness, go on over to iTunes or Spotify and follow the Quirky Dog podcast. And hey, while you're there, leave a rating and review and let them know what you think of the show. Until then, keep it quirky.
I'm going to give you guys all a little personal nudge here that, take a little mental inventory and jot things down, if you will. I am not a crazy record keeper anymore with dog training and stuff. It just gets to be too much for me. I do have a rehab journal going for Jimmy that I'm pretty consistent about because it just helps me know what we did each day. If he was a little bit sore, if his incision looked a little bruised because of activity, that's a nice thing for me to take record of. But take 5 minutes and write down, what do you have right now? What does your dog do that you like? What are you, grateful for? Let's start with the good. What do you want? What would you like to improve? What behaviors would you like to change? Where are your pain points? What do you want to tweak? And then also, what are you going to be able to ignore? There's a lot of crap that Scott and I we don't care about. Like, we're going to let go. We're not going to stress about. We're not settling for less. We're just okay that it happens. I would say one of them is Jimmy barks in his crate sometimes. He can be reactive when we're rotating dogs, and you accept that. You don't care.
I think the dog's perfect. I don't have a friggin' problem with that dog in one. Anyway. Occasionally, he likes the sound of his own voice. And I say, hear, hear. Good boy.
He likes
Jess
to make
gets
himself
really pissed
known.
off when I do that.
Oh my God, he thinks the dog's perfect. Okay, what are some things my dogs do? Vital jumps on the counter every single day, jumps on the counter, sees what's there, especially if I'm going to make other dogs food. You know, she's like, oh, you know, what do you have for me? I
One
tell
thing
her
I don't
off,
like about
it's
your
over.
dogs is very similar to, they get this from you. They don't respect my personal space. Okay? I'll be on the couch. These dogs come flying in, jump on my head. I'm like, Jess, get your friggin' dog off me. You have to give this dog some love.
They like
this
you.
dog loves you.
They like you.
Like,
I tell them all the time, my dog Sink is going to be 13 in the spring. I say, if Bug didn't love you, I never would have stayed. This is the only reason I'm here is because Bug loved you. My dogs like you. You should be grateful for that. But there's going to be certain things. It doesn't have to be things that, you know, your partner is accepting and cares about. You know, that gets into marital conflict and relationship stuff and everything else. But you personally, as the owner, what kind of stuff are you willing to just let slide? It's okay. I don't care that this happened. For me personally, I would never have a dog, you know, peeing and pooping in my house. I get that, you know, some senior dogs cannot control it. A lot of people let that slide. That literally like makes my skin crawl. I can't even consider that. I am a pretty big stickler for noise. I don't like noise. Even when I've had many dogs in my care, I don't just accept, oh, dogs bark and this is how it's going to be. You know what I mean? So there are like some hard truths for me that I'm certainly going to intervene with, but things like jumping on the counter, I'm like, oh, whatever, it's fine. You know, this is how it's going to be. This is what's going to happen. So no, give yourself a column for that too. Like maybe I can fix this, but if I don't, it's not going to make or break me. And it doesn't necessarily mean I'm settling for less. It doesn't really affect me that much, but you need to know where you're starting. And you know, this little mental inventory and this little exercise is going to help you get there.
I think that one of the nice things about training dogs, especially the really difficult dogs, like this dachshund that I went to see that has 20 plus bites and just a nasty little dog, is that the people think the dog is so bad, they don't even know if they can salvage what's going on here. I mean, they're just almost in a hopeless situation. So anything we do is an improvement. And I told them that in that first class, like this was getting better, that's getting better. Things are getting better because it was so out of hand. I said, listen, the dog is always going to be quirky. The word I use is like, this dog has got something going on, a little bit nasty, this and that. There's a huge amount of room for improvement, but he's not going to become, you know, a lab or a golden retriever.
Or a service dog. Let's just get real here.
Yeah, for some reason, he's a little bit sharp and a little bit, you know, and it all happened before they got the dog.
Easily triggered.
Yeah, easily triggered and has this aggression, but there's so much room for improvement that even though you may have a goal that's an ideal for your dog, and we never reach the ideal, getting towards that is just constant improvement. The dog is just getting better all the time. Even though I tell people, like with healing, I explain what healing is.
Walking next to you on a loose
leash. This is
leash.
the ideal. This is perfection, what I'm describing. We're not going to have perfection. We're going to keep on trying to hone this in and make it better and better, but it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, but you need to know what you're trying to work towards so that you can continue to improve.
And while you're making those incremental changes, you're no longer settling for less. You're moving in the right direction towards the greater good, towards better, towards more, towards peace, whatever that looks like to you. But in taking action, you are not settling for less anymore. And I think as a society as a whole, definitely as a country, somewhat as a world, we have just gotten to this point where we're just settling. Like, you know, this is fine. You know, Uber Eats is fine. I'm going to eat fast food all the time. I'm going to gain, 15 to 20 pounds in my 20s and 30s because, whatever, it's just the way things go. We just start making excuses for every area of our life that isn't exactly where we want it to be. And by not settling for less, you're showing a lot of self-respect to yourself. And we have been on this, wellness journey, if you will, basically since we started podcasting up until now. But even this year, I just finished a 3-day fast myself. Scott's been hitting the gym harder than he's been working out probably since he was a freaking teenager. Like, we are trying to improve the quality of our lives day in, day out, week in, week out, not only for ourselves, but also to show up for you guys. But it's a respect thing, right? Like, showing self-respect to ourselves helps our household. It helps us in business. It helps us serve better. It helps us be better people within society and in the world. So think of that as not only doing this because, the dog needs this and the dog's fearful and the dog has anxiety and I need to help the dog. Think of it for doing it for yourself too. You owe it to yourself to have a better quality of life. And of course, I am a huge advocate for let's make the dogs better. There is nothing that I hate more more than these dogs that have lack of mental clarity and they just are really not in a good headspace. Like, that is why we do what we do. That is why we came up with Canine Healing. That is why we have our in-person business. I want the dogs to feel better living in their own skin. But it's also about us too as owners.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the physical and, my journey, when I was young, I was in really good shape. I was, part of that is genetic, and part of it is I was very active, and I was in the military, and I just enjoyed running, weightlifting, and doing those kind of things. So like in high school, I was a fat little kid, and then I was a skinny teenager, and I started working out and started putting on muscle and living that lifestyle and enjoying seeing progress, going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week. And over the past couple of years, I've been out running hard and weightlifting, and I wasn't really making much progress. I'm tracking my body fat percentage, my
and he was working
percentage.
Hard. It wasn't like he was just running once a week.
I'm eating well, not perfect, but eating clean, pretty clean, and working out and running and doing all this stuff, and my body metabolism just wasn't kicking in, And I said to Jess, and this is almost a year ago, I said, I want to get my testosterone checked. And I got it checked, and it was pretty low. Probably normal for a 61-year-old man, but it was low. It wasn't, obviously, it's not going to be like a 20-year-old. I knew that. But now, in this day and age, we have the ability to supplement and get into this type of thing, which I said, we talked about it. And it was a big thing for me to do it, because it's like, if you're going to do that, it's like you're on that train.
You're committing.
You got to just commit to it, Yeah. And I said, I think I want to give this a shot. So this was like last March, and I had turned 61, and I was just getting, and again, I think like I'm settling for less. I'm working, I'm running, I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm not like reaping any type of real benefit other than I could run farther. I could go out and run 4 to 6 miles, but
he wasn't seeing significant results.
Yeah, I wasn't seeing any physical changes in my body. And within 2 to 3 months, all of a sudden I put on like 10 pounds of muscle. I'm in better shape. My attitude, you can
way
attest.
Easier
my
to live
attitude is much, much better. I'm much more optimistic.
Yeah.
I go to the gym now. I'm always looking forward to going to the gym. If we can't go to the gym in the morning because like we're going to the podcast, I'm already telling Jess on the way here, I'm going to stop in tonight, and go to the gym. So it's a small thing.
But it's been life-changing.
I didn't want to settle for less anymore with my physical health. I evaluated the pros and cons. And, a lot of people they think, oh my God, you're going to have a heart attack, all these things. But there's a big difference between supplementing and getting your testosterone into a higher normal level and going down the anabolic steroid bodybuilding route where you're doing 10 times that and putting on a lot of muscle and really stressing your heart out and things like that.
Yeah,
so
and hormones play a
I'll
huge...
be doing that next year.
Don't start. He's hard to keep under wraps. But hormone replacement therapy is even a thing in dogs, right? Joe Rogan and Huberman just did a podcast about this a bit ago. You can look for it on YouTube. I'm actually actively looking for someone to have on the podcast to discuss hormone replacement therapy in dogs. They're doing this for dogs that have been neutered young, introducing testosterone, helping things. So maybe it's a hormonal thing going on with you or your animals or something else, but intervene. Intervention causes for change, and taking a step in some direction, hopefully it be the right direction, a positive direction, can be life-changing. So really consider these things and stop settling, you guys. I don't care if it's about your physical health, if it's about your mental health, if it's about your family dynamic, if it's about your friend circle, if it's about your, drinking habits. I don't care what it is. Stop settling. If you are not happy, now is the time to make the change, and then focus that onto the relationship with your dog as well, because your dog deserves it. And really, I'm telling you, there was this thread on a local dog trainer's a mutual friend dog trainer's post the other day, like, what's your favorite part of your job? And I literally said, changing people's lives. Like, it is so nice that we are able to intervene on such a small scale in the broad scheme of things for, a couple weeks or a couple classes, and literally people's lives are changed. So maybe it's seeking out the right person to work with you. Maybe it's seeking out the right online account. Maybe it's just putting the dog in the crate a couple times a week for a couple hours when you're home makes all the difference. But start implementing something new so you stop settling for less.
Yeah, and I just, when you were talking, I was just thinking about, I haven't drank in like 33 years. And when I was 27, and I used to party all the time and raise hell and had a great time. And it got to a point where I knew I was settling for less. I knew that I could do better. I should be doing better. And this was just a dead-end lifestyle that I was going down. And I finally just said, that's it, I'm done. And I took whatever steps needed to be done. I went to a 12-step program. I did whatever had to be done. But the bottom line is, I quit drinking. I quit doing a lot of these things that were hurting me physically and emotionally and mentally, and just never looked back.
Yeah.
I just don't even think about it now. But it was because I felt there was no question I was settling for less. Like, the whole world knew I was settling for less. I was just the last one to realize that I was settling for less.
And we all are not as extreme as Scott in all of our examples and all of our situations. But we do really want to make the point that whatever you're doing for your own self and your own health does affect the general quality of your life and with those around you and those you love, including your dog. So I hope that you guys had a great Thanksgiving. We are moving into December. The holidays keep rolling on through. Be sure to check out that link in the description for Havoc Your Way. I'm telling you, you're going to love what she has to offer. She even has some custom dog-eared sweatshirts. It's the best of the best of the best. And thank you so much for joining in this week. We have our very good friend Sriharsa Pradhan coming on next week. I can't wait. And in the meantime, keep it quirky. Bye, guys.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.